So I have been playing a lot of games on my Nintendo Switch 2, and one of the things that we did with the Nintendo Switch 1 on this channel was do videos where I talk about what I have been playing and my initial thoughts of what I'm playing. And I thought now that the Switch 2 is starting to get more games every week, I think now is the right time to bring back this series, as well as to update some of the things that I've said about previous games, because some of you guys in the comments has made me consider and re-look at some of the games that I was playing on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I'm excited to get into this. Let's go ahead and get started. But before I forget, I do have to let you guys know, we have just now opened up the merch store. It's the link in the description. We have an awesome shirt, hoodie, stickers. If you guys want to pick one up, it helps the channel tremendously. If not, we're all good. Let's jump right into this amazing Nintendo Switch 2 video. So one of my more controversial videos was my thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy on the Nintendo Switch 2. And a lot of people really did not like what I had to say. In fact, I think people interpreted the video the completely wrong way. And as I've said many times before, Hogwarts Legacy on Nintendo Switch 2 is obviously going to look 20 times better on Switch 2 compared to what Switch 1 is. I accept and realize that, but something that I always said in that video is that it doesn't have that spectacular, magical moment where it's like, wow, this feels like something impossible. Kind of like how Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch 1, that shouldn't have been possible. With the hardware, what the Switch 1 is, that game should not have been able to be a thing onto that system. And I didn't feel that same type of feeling with Hogwarts Legacy onto the Nintendo Switch 2. In fact, I was not happy with what the developers had said. As I said before, the developers said that Hogwarts Legacy is not a port.
So for Nintendo Switch 2, we had a decision to make whether we were going to do an up port from Nintendo Switch or start with next generation assets. That was a difficult decision because the easy path would have been to do the up port from Nintendo Switch. But we felt like we were able to create a better realization of our world by starting with the next generation assets.
And obviously, if you play through the game, there's a lot of parts that you can clearly tell that they ported this from the Switch 1. And if you don't believe me that they didn't say this, go check out the Hogwarts Legacy creator's voice video that's on the official Nintendo channel. As they stated, they had the option to port Hogwarts Legacy over to the Switch 2 or make a new version that was made for the Switch 2 hardware. And they said they made the new version, but that was just a complete lie. But you guys in the comments were saying all sorts of things, so I put way more time into seeing how I felt about Hogwarts Legacy on Nintendo Switch 2, and honestly, I still feel the very same on how I feel about it when it comes visually. There are parts that it looks really nice visually, and then there's parts that they never fixed for the Switch 1, that they barely did anything. I still think that Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 2 is a very disappointing version of the game. It's miles better than the Switch 1 version. It's the definitive way to play Hogwarts Legacy if you have a Nintendo console. But I still think that there is more that could have been done here. And I think I would have gave Warner Brothers the pass on this game if it wasn't for the fact of what they said in that creator's voice. The fact that they said it was not going to be a port is what I always go back to, as it annoys me so much because they flat out lied. There's even textures that I played through in Hogwarts Legacy that you could see that they did not do much to. They look exactly of what it looked on Switch 1, and especially some of the cutscenes look pretty rough to this game. I think that they could have done way more, and that's honestly still how I feel about the game. But I wanted to give you guys another chance on this. I still think it's good. I think it's a good way to play the game. So please realize I'm not bashing this game. I'm more bashing the comments that Warner Brothers and Avalanche made, because it made complete lies of what we were supposed to get out of this. And I just think it's very disappointing and doesn't feel like it could have. It feels like it could have been something way special, somewhat like the Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 1. This just felt like a cheap, easy way to make extra money. I still enjoy Hogwarts Legacy a lot, and if you've never played the game before, you'll still have a fun time with this onto Switch 2. I just think that people need to realize from my point of view as why I was disappointed by this so much is due to the fact of the comments that was made. But it's still worth your time. It's just, if you notice things about Switch 1 ports that you don't like, you're probably not gonna like this as much because there are parts of the game that's just, they didn't do well of, I don't know what the correct word is, patching the textures, I guess would be the wording we would use here, because there's times that this game still looks kind of rough. But I've been enjoying this, playing this on the go. It's definitely been worth the money for me. I'm just saying it's still a disappointment of something that could have been way better, because the Switch 2 could have handled this game way better than what it looks to be on the Switch 2 already. All I'm gonna say though, to close out the Hogwarts Legacy part of this video, is if you were one of the people that left those comments on the review video, please go watch the creator's voice and then leave a comment on this video apologizing of everything you guys said in that Hogwarts video that I made. Okay, so let's talk about one that honestly I have not been enjoying playing that much, and that's Shadow Labyrinth. Shadow Labyrinth had probably one of the most interesting reveals of all time, in my opinion, when it comes to recent gaming reveals. Because there was an episode in the Lost Levels that was dedicated towards Pac-Man. And it was probably one of the most random things, as it did not feel like anything like Pac-Man. It was so weird. Until later in the Game Awards, we realized that that thing that we saw in the Lost Levels was going to be a game. And that game was Shadow Labyrinth. And I was kind of looking forward to this. I was like, okay, this is a little bit different. It's supposed to be a dark and twisted version of a Pac-Man game, essentially. And I was like, okay, Bandai, I think you have me interested. I'm going to keep this on my radar. And it finally came out. It took me forever to find it, but I finally found it. And I played a lot of this game recently. And I gotta be honest, I haven't been having a fun time with it. The art style of this game feels very cheap and just honestly looks very bad at times. I am not a fan of this art style. I thought it was going to be something that was going to grow over time, especially as I continue to play through the game. But honestly, it looks pretty ugly, if I'm to be honest, and feels very cheap, if that makes sense. Not to mention, as I continue to play this game, I feel like this was originally supposed to be a new IP, but halfway through development, Bandai lost hope into this new IP and was like, listen, just throw Pac-Man in there. Let's try to make something out of it. Because the Pac-Man connection within this game just feels very weird. Not to mention, it doesn't really do anything different when it comes to these Metroidvania games. And to be honest, I just was not having a fun time playing it. I also feel a lot of the gameplay mechanics that this game has to offer, some of it's cool, and then some of it's just plain weird. As I mentioned, it's mixed in with Pac-Man. There's a part in the game where you can become like the Pac-Man eating the dots, and it's such a weird mechanic that it feels incredibly forced and something that was never supposed to be there in the first place. There is so much with this game that I feel like had the potential, and I definitely would like to know if the Pac-Man inclusion was forced or not, or if this was actually supposed to be a new IP. Because I feel like the developers of this have the ideas to make something here. It's just when you throw in that Pac-Man inclusion into it, it just felt very weird, and then not to mention, it just didn't feel any different than any of these other games out there. This is not one that I would honestly recommend, as it's one that I'm regretting playing, but I'm going to continue to play through this game and hope that this changes my mind. But I'm about 7 hours into this game, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not having a fun time. I'm waiting for that moment to really lock me into wanting to play this game. But the further I get, the more disappointed that I get within this. For $30, I don't think I could recommend this for you. And with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, it's still not a $30 game to me. This is something that, in all honesty, I probably would only pay $5 to $10 for. I have not had a fun time with this. I think some of the other stuff is better. Hollow Knight, stuff like that. That is some of the stuff that you should be looking into if you're interested into this type of gameplay genre. I don't even know if I can recommend die-hard Pac-Man fans this, because it's just such a weird game. And again, Pac-Man feels very forced. I don't really like calling this a Pac-Man game, because the stuff that happens, it just doesn't feel like it was supposed to happen. I don't know what they were on when they decided to create this concept. I'm still banking on the fact that this was supposed to be a new IP. I would definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on this game. If you guys had the chance to play this game, hopefully you guys have a better experience than I did, but as of right now, this one feels very mediocre. I had some fun with the boss fights. The boss fights were actually pretty cool. That's probably the only thing that I would give this game credit for, but other than that, everything else surrounding this game, it's pretty mid in my opinion. This next one is my most played Nintendo Switch 2 game. And I told you guys that we were going to come back to this game once I got to the Phantom Liberty DLC. That game being Cyberpunk, obviously. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that I really like. I have always liked Cyberpunk 2077, even when it first released in 2020. I was there when everyone hated on it, and then I was there when everyone that hated it started loving it. And when it got announced for the Nintendo Switch 2, I was super pumped to experience this world again, especially considering the fact that I did not play the Phantom Liberty DLC. And something that I've been doing on my Nintendo Switch 2 playthrough of Cyberpunk that I didn't do when I played on PlayStation is doing all of the side quest stuff. And it has been so fun to play this game doing the side quest and learning more about characters that I did not see when I had my first playthrough of Cyberpunk. I have been having an absolute blast, and I am continued to be shocked with how well that this runs onto the Nintendo Switch 2. The only time, and I think I brought this up in my review, is the only time I see frame rate dips is sometimes depending the areas that I'm driving in. Other than that, this game is always locked at the frame rate. And as I play through Phantom Liberty, I am surprised to see how well it's holding up from that. Because obviously Phantom Liberty did not come to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. In fact, it actually got canceled because they said that the hardware could not handle it. So when I saw that the Switch 2 was getting that DLC, I was kind of surprised and was very intrigued to play it, as I know a lot of you guys in the comments were suggesting that you guys didn't have the greatest experience of playing Phantom Liberty on the Switch 2, but I'm here to say I have not had the same experiences. I am having a very fun time with the Phantom Liberty DLC on Switch 2. There's only one time that this game was definitely a little all over the place when it came to its frame rate, and it was one of the boss fights that I experienced into that. But other than that, it still remained at a locked frame rate, and I like to switch from performance to quality mode all the time. In my honest opinion though, I think performance mode is the best mode to be playing Cyberpunk onto the Nintendo Switch 2, as I feel like the quality mode does not make a big difference between the two. This has been my most played game. I'm still enjoying it, and it's definitely, probably in my opinion, the best third-party game onto the system. I don't really know if there will be any other game that can beat this game as a best third party, because you can tell that CD Projekt Red put so much effort and love into bringing this game into the Switch 2 that I don't know if some of these other developers making Switch 2 games, especially ports, are going to put the same effort that CD Projekt Red did. This is going to be a very special Switch 2 game, and I am enjoying my second playthrough, and especially as I continue to play Phantom Liberty, that's been an amazing experience so far. This is probably the one game that I will always highly, highly, highly recommend that you pick up for your Switch 2, especially in a third-party perspective, because this is the best one out there. I'm so curious to see what CD Projekt Red's going to do more of when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, as they have expressed how much they love the system and have hinted to doing more things for it. And the only other thing that I can really think of is The Witcher 3. And you know, I got the chance to play that again for a video that came out a few months ago, and it's so interesting to see how CD Projekt Red turned something like The Witcher 3 into the Switch 1, and then years later going to the Switch 2 and putting Cyberpunk and looking miles better. I do hope that CD Projekt Red is able to do a Witcher 3 Nintendo Switch 2 edition, as I think that that's a game that could definitely benefit off the Switch 2 hardware. In terms of what else CD Projekt Red makes for the system, I don't really know, because I don't think they would do Witcher 4, but I mean, I don't know. I think we're really about to see how powerful this system can be in the coming weeks as we approach more third-party games hitting the system, as Star Wars Outlaws is about to come out, Chronos is about to come out. These are all key games, I feel like, to the Switch 2 hardware, figuring out how well some of these third parties can handle onto the system. Guys, these are the 3 Switch games that I have been playing the most recently. I definitely want to hear from you guys. How did you feel about the things that I said? I feel like the Hogwarts Legacy thing is still going to rub people the wrong way. Even though I feel like I've done my best to explain that I still think it's good, I just think it's disappointing and could have been something way better. And I just felt like I was lied to by Avalanche and Warner Brothers. That's why I was very disappointed into this. Where these other 2 games, I think a lot of y'all are going to agree with what I said. But I still want to hear all y'all's opinions no matter what. And especially want to hear what you guys have been playing onto the system. Make sure to leave all those type of comments in the comment section below. Guys, I've been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button. Check out our merch store. I think that's only going to be running for the month of September, and then we're closing it down. And then eventually, a few months next year, something like that, we'll make a different design most likely. Check out the Twitter, Discord, Instagram, all that good stuff in the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.